Just a couple more slides. I like to start with our mission statement, which is inspiring local communities to responsibly manage the life cycle of plastics and waste as part of an initiative to eradicate marine debris. We do a lot of work on plastics because there are 13 times the number of plastic in the ocean than stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Plastics are forever and a very important issue, but it's really important that we have a holistic approach to tackling waste. Generally speaking, as the population continues to grow, waste is going to become more and more of a problem, and we need to figure out ways to be more regenerative and reduce our waste so we have a sustainable future for ourselves and for future generations. So another form of waste in addition to plastics is food waste, a really pressing problem. In the US alone, we waste between 70 and 80 billion pounds of food annually, and that's actually before it makes it to our houses. And even that being said, we still waste a significant amount of food from our households, about 54 billion pounds annually, which is a really hard number to wrap your head around. And I just like to point out that it's pretty crazy that we have this massive food waste problem given the amount of food insecurity here in the United States. About 10% of households have been hovering in low and very low food security over the past decade. And so we really need to figure out how we can reduce this food waste and also make sure our communities aren't living in food insecurity. I also want to point out that this is a social justice issue. This food insecurity is not distributed equally across society. This data from the USDA, you can clearly see that Black and Hispanic households suffer more from food insecurity than white and non-Hispanic communities. And it's not just our food waste that's directly a problem, it's also the greenhouse gases associated with our food waste. When it ends up in the landfill and decomposes, greenhouse gases are emitted. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United States found that if you were to combine the emissions associated with food waste globally, it would be the third largest emitting country, only next to China and the United States. So food waste is a huge issue when it comes to climate change. But it's also not just the waste, it's our food and consumption and diets in general. If you are consuming a meat-based diet, this contributes more so to greenhouse gas emissions than our plant-based diet. This is because we clear land space for cattle. This is because the digestive processes of cattle emit methane and greenhouse gas emissions. So it's the food waste and our diet itself that also contributes to the climate crisis, which is arguably the most pressing problem facing our generations. And just also wanted to add that climate change is also a social justice issue. All of the negative impacts associated with a warming climate, from flooding, hurricanes, heat waves, largely impact the most vulnerable communities that really don't contribute substantially to these emissions in the first place. And this is also already affecting us locally here in Miami. I know we have some people tuning in from abroad, but speaking from being in Miami right now, a lot of our majority Black communities sit at higher elevation above sea level, like Little Haiti, Little River, Liberty City, sit about 7 feet above sea level compared to Miami Beach at about 4 feet. And we're already seeing some climate gentrification happening by people starting to move into these higher elevation areas. Even in Little River, there's actually a lawsuit that's already been filed with 800 people on it because of over rent increases in their neighborhood that's starting to drive people out of their communities. So all of these issues are very interrelated, and it's a great, awesome, positive event. And I just hope you guys feel very empowered that you're already tackling these really problematic issues while doing these great things with Debris Free Oceans and Chef Julie. So I'm almost done. Obviously great to end with solutions, and Julie's gonna provide us with hands-on stuff we can do in our kitchen. Switching to a plant-based diet is such a great thing we can do for climate change and environmental injustice. Also, composting is a great way, if you do generate food waste, to allow it to regenerate into nutritious soil rather than end up in the landfill and contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. On our website, we actually had a composting workshop that has information if you want to set up compost at your home, a bunch of different kinds. We also had Chef Julie as part of that workshop, and she talked about using meal prep to avoid food waste in the first place. I also wanted to point out this website, litterless.com. You can go there and search through where you can find community compost all across the United States. So if you're too worried to set up a home compost, if you live in an apartment, you can find a community compost and you can freeze your food scraps over the week and then take it somewhere at the end of the week. And then my last slide, and I'll pass it over to Chef Julie. I'd be remiss if I didn't include a little bit, a slide all about plastics. Plastic pollution is really what we're finding polluting our coastlines. This is data from International Coastal Cleanup Day, the largest global effort to clean up our coastlines. And it's really this plastic tableware and carryout containers that are washing up on our shores because we use it all the time. We use it for like 5 minutes max, and then it's made of a material that lasts forever. And it either persists, whether it's in landfills or where it leaks out into our environment. And so we love that Della bowls and the Doral Yard uses reusables, but also when they need disposables, they use natural compostable alternatives that are made from materials like wheat straw and bamboo and paper. So we love that. And I just wanted to point out, we actually have a responsible products catalog on our website where you can browse through a catalog of responsible alternatives that will be much less harmful than plastics should they end up in the environment. And I'll send out these slides so you guys can check out these resources, but that is all I have. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I'm excited to introduce you guys to Chef Julie. She's the Director of Culinary and Community at Yard Hospitality. It's been so great to work with her in the past, and we're really excited to have her again for this cooking class.
Thank you, Maddie. You are such a wealth of information, and I'm also very glad to be your friend and your coworker in all of these partnerships that we've had over the years. And just to piggyback on what you were saying in terms of like the trash going to either the landfills or the oceans, it's also right in our backyard, and there's something that all of us can do. We just picked up around our neighborhood the other day, and we picked up like 23 pounds of trash, and all that stuff goes out to the oceans also, because we have all these storm drains. And that was the big thing about Wynwood. It was like, guys, we're not right next to the ocean, but everything we do counts, and every bit of trash goes somewhere. So I think it's just a really important connection that we make, that whether we live by the ocean or not, every bit of plastic counts. So I want to show you guys just real quick, like in terms of Earth Day, where do we start? Maddie, you had mentioned just going plant-based is really a great place to start if you're really concerned about the environment. And so this is my cutting board right here. So starting with a ton of different plants and vegetables and colors is where we want to start when we start thinking about being eco-conscious and knowing where our food comes from. A lot of these things I picked in my own garden today. So we're going to use a little bit of my moringa and my Cuban oregano and my Italian oregano and some of my garlic chives. So I know some of you guys might not have these, accessible, but we're going to pull these out a little bit later. What I did put on your grocery list was parsley and cilantro and green onions and tomatoes. So whether you're growing those or getting them at the farms or getting them at the grocery store, it's just a really great place to start in terms of, being really conscientious about what you're eating and where your food comes from. So wanted to show that to you guys first and foremost. So I love teaching Earth Day classes because it's something that just makes so much sense. It's, what you do in your kitchen and how you cook and how you eat every single day. Your decisions make such an impact in the environment. And also, where do you go? Like Maddie was mentioning at Della Bowls in the Doral Yard, we're really conscientious about the products that we use. And that's stuff that you can see in the front of the house, because you can see, we use reusable as much as possible. We use compostable as much as possible. But it's also in the back of the house. We're using reusable spoons to taste the food when we need to taste it. Or if we're using these kinds of deli containers, we're reusing them 100 times. We're making sure that we're just like not wasting anything that that we can reuse as much as possible. Our little ramekins in the back of house, if they have to be disposable, they're going to be this, compostable, well thought out product. So, I just want to encourage you guys as part of your kind of like bigger picture thinking of eating and dining out and cooking at home. Think about what restaurants are really conscientious in front of the scenes and also behind the scenes. Ask them about their practices behind the scenes. Buy local as much as possible. Our farms right now are like at the best peak time. So if you have the time to drive down to Homestead, go check out some of our local farms like Urban Oasis and Tina's Pride, or go up to Swank Farms in Palm Beach, or sign up for a subscription to a local CSA. Hungry Harvest, they take produce that would otherwise go in the garbage and they deliver it right to your door. So thinking about not just like what you're eating and where you're dining and where your food comes from, but like all the things, like how does it all come together to make that full picture for you. So we're going to talk a lot about food. We're going to talk about where it comes from, and we're going to get cooking right now. So with Della bowls, we have a magical formula that we kind of stick to every time we build a bowl. And so I'm going to tell you first how we're going to build this bowl today. We always
we have
start
one
with,
question real quick. Well,
Yeah.
actually two. One is, what is moringa?
Oh, moringa. It's a Caribbean, well, it's a tree, and it's very tropical. It grows in Caribbean climates and very much in Miami. It's like a weed. And it grows pods that also have seeds, and the seeds are like a multivitamin. In the Caribbean, they take these little seeds as a multivitamin, but these leaves have kind of like a little minty bite to them. They're a little spicy, and they kind of give you a little bit of a zing because they're so nutritious. So if you have a spot for a tree in your yard, moringa is a great one that's edible and beautiful and grows like crazy.
Awesome.
All right. So we're going to start with a great big wide bowl. So I love these kinds of bowls for making Della bowls, but also just like a regular bowl like this would work also. So make sure you have that at the ready. We always start with a base at Della bowls. Today we're going to use quinoa as our base, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about quinoa and how that fits into the environmental picture as well. Then we always layer it with a protein. Now, today we are actually using quinoa as our base and our protein. And then we're going to tie in some crispy spiced chickpeas as an additional protein, which will kind of be like that crunchy boost / protein. We had lots of different colors of vegetables. So we're going to do some mixed greens, just kind of to fill up that bowl with delicious green goodness. We're going to make funche, which is a newer thing that we have at the Doral Yard in our bowls, and it's a Puerto Rican polenta of sorts. So it's like a corn porridge. And so we'll go into that a little bit. I'm going to give you a few different alternatives to that as well. We're going to do marinated beet and heirloom tomato salsa. We're going to do grilled zucchini, but I'm also going to tell you how to roast it if you don't want to get your grill out just for zucchini. My special green herb sauce, which I can't show up to a dinner party without, or I will be asked to go home and make some. So it's called my famous green herb sauce because it sort of is. And then crispy spiced chickpeas to finish off, like I mentioned, as our protein. So without further ado, we're going to think first about what can we make that is going to take the longest, right? Because we have a very limited amount of time together. So we want to really be strategic about what is going to take the longest. We are going to start with the quinoa. And you might have noticed on your list of ingredients that I mentioned to get fair trade organic quinoa. We use this tri-colored blend. You might have gotten red, white, black. Why did I mention fair trade quinoa? So quinoa is amazing. It comes from the Andes. It's nutrient dense. It's a complete protein, high in amino acids. It's high in things like manganese, magnesium, iron. It's from the lettuce family. It's a seed. It gives you a ton of energy, right? It's like so many amazing things wrapped into this tiny little seed. However, it became so popular in our culture that the demand it skyrocketed, and the Bolivians who grow it, they couldn't keep up with the demand, and the price went up and up to the people, or to the point that the people who were growing it couldn't even afford it anymore. So it became this very unsustainable crop in the places where it was being grown, and it wasn't good for the communities that it was being sourced from. So I say that because here in America, we're like, oh, quinoa is so great. And it's one of those perfect examples of how that north-south trade relationship can really actually be damaging to the community that we're taking it from. But if you get organic free trade, you're actually contributing to farms that are sustainable, and they're really taking care of the land that they're growing it on. They're taking care of their people, they're taking care of their community. So yes, you are going to pay a little bit more for that quinoa, but that's where we also have to look at sustainability in that way as well. So I specifically chose this for Earth Day because it is a bit controversial, and someone might have said, oh, well, why would she put quinoa on an Earth Day menu? But it was for that very specific reason of making sure that we're very conscientious about where we source our food from. So quinoa can have a little bit of a dirty taste to it. So at Della bowls, we always use a fine mesh strainer, and we rinse our quinoa. So I'm going to just measure 1 cup of quinoa, and that's going to make enough for like two and a half servings. So you could make more. The ratio is going to be 1 cup of quinoa to 2 cups of water. So I'm just gonna run this right under the water and get it nice and rinsed, and that's going to kind of wash off whatever residue might have come from transportation or packaging or anything. So give that a good rinse and put that right in the pot. So I did 1 cup of quinoa. I'm going to do 2 cups of water. You could add a pinch of salt now, or you could add it at the end. I always add it at the end, just based on personal preference. So I'm going to turn this on the stove here on high and let it come to a boil. So it's very similar to a rice. It's like very, very simple. When it comes to a boil, I'm going to add the top, turn it to a low, and then let it simmer for maybe like 15 minutes until all the water has been evaporated. So that's that. Super, super, super easy. The next thing that's going to take a little bit of time is the crispy spice chickpeas. These are really, really tasty and can be great as a snack, and they'll also last for a while. So if you make a bigger batch and you want to keep it in an airtight container, it makes a really great snack. Chickpeas are also a fabulous form of vegetarian protein. I think, if I can remember right, they actually have like a higher ratio of protein to their volume. So you get a lot of bang for your buck with chickpeas. So I have 2 cups of cooked chickpeas. These were cooked from scratch. They were cooked from the dry bean, which we think makes a huge difference. When you're eating them, they just taste better, and hummus is better. But I understand we're all really busy, so canned chickpeas are fine too. Just go ahead and use that fine mesh strainer, get all the liquid out, give them a good rinse, dry them off. For this recipe, you're just going to take a bowl and you're going to add in 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil and 1 tablespoon of tamari. Tamari is basically soy sauce, but we use a gluten-free tamari. And tamari also is kind of more bang for your buck. It has less sodium and more flavor. So if you want to go like the healthier route, it's a great alternative to soy sauce. But a soy sauce or a gluten-free soy sauce would work here too. So that was 1 tablespoon tamari, 1 tablespoon olive oil, and then I'm going to take my lime. Now these limes are kind of hard, so I'm going to like roll it around on the cutting board a little bit and try to get the juice to kind of like prepare for me. And then I'm going to cut that in quarters and give that a little squeeze. And if you roll it pretty good ahead of time, you will get a little bit more juice out of it, but it is kind of a workout. These limes, they're a little bit hard, but I'm getting a little bit of juice out. Okay, then you want to take your favorite spices. And I have a whole mix of spices down here. You can see them all. So I'm going to take my 1/2 teaspoon measurer, and I am going to put paprika, cumin, little cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of each. I'm also going to put a little bit of chili powder. And I'm going to put some salt, 1/2 teaspoon of salt also. Okay, so you could put curry powder if you want. You could put black pepper, but you're going to make kind of a paste of sorts. Okay, and just mix it around, make sure there's no clumps. Okay. Also, I hear that this is boiling back here. So I'm just going to turn that to low and put the top on it and check in about 15 minutes. Okay, so you've got your mix here. You've got your chickpeas. Make sure they're dry. Yep, there's no liquid in there. And I'm just going to put the chickpeas right into that mixture there and just turn them a little bit to make sure that they're nicely coated. Okay, so I've already preheated my oven to 375 for these ones. And I'm gonna pop those in the oven and set my timer for about 25 minutes and check them at that time. Got some tin foil on my baking sheet. And I'll just go ahead and spread those out a little bit. And I'm gonna pop that in the oven right now in the preheated 375 degree oven and set my timer for 25 minutes. All right. Next. Maddie, don't forget to tell me if anybody has any questions. And you guys, don't be shy if you have questions. Nothing will slow me down. So bring them on. Bring them on.
Nothing yet. Nothing yet. But yes, feel free to ask
Okay.
questions.
Okay, so now let's talk.
We do have
do
a
you have
hand
one?
raised. Let's see.
Okay.
Maria, I'll allow you to talk if you want to ask your question. All right, Maria? Or you can put it in the chat, but I just gave you permission to talk if you would like to. Or maybe it was an accident. And,
Okay.
oh, Maria asked for the name of the soy substitute.
Oh, so it's tamari. So here's the bottle. So we use a gluten-free variety, but you could also just get a regular tamari. So this is organic tamari. And yeah, more flavor, less salt. Can't go wrong.
And then Christine asked for the written recipe, and we'll send that out in a follow-up email along with all the the instructions.
Yes, I think that's coming right after this class, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so let's talk about funche, right? F-U-N-C-H-E, this Puerto Rican polenta. If you guys have been to the Doral Yard, you might have tried it. We have it in the Doral bowl, which is our newest bowl. We just launched it a couple months ago, and it's like crazy good. And basically, if you guys have ever had polenta or grilled polenta, it's a cornmeal, and you cook it like slow, like a stew or a porridge over the stove. And then you're gonna lay it out on a baking sheet and chill it for a long time, like 6 to 12 hours. And then when it's cold, you cut it into squares and you saute it in olive oil. So that's how we do it at the Doral Yard. Today, we do not have 12 hours in this cooking class to do that whole process. So I'm going to show it to you and explain it to you so you can do it later. But for today's purposes, we're just going to use the porridge. So it's just going to be like kind of a yummy, delicious, actually mush of sorts. It's corn based. So this is the cornmeal that we use. But I also wanted to give you a super simple idea. If you didn't want to go to all the trouble of making this funche porridge, you could also take some corn. I did it 2 ways for you. I grilled this ear and I boiled this one. And you could do either one of those and just cut the kernels off and also just use straight corn, and that would be fine too. I should tell you that I based this whole menu off of what we're growing locally right now in Florida, and what's seasonal right now here. So if you live somewhere else in the country or the world, these things might not be seasonal quite yet, but in South Florida, this is what's seasonal now. So if you go to your farmers markets, you will find corn, you will find beets, you'll find tomatoes, you'll find greens, zucchinis, all these things. So anyways, that's kind of why I chose this specific menu, but this funche is a little bit like getting a little fancy. So I'm just going to show you that real quick, since I wanted to give you the recipe for that. And I just want to let you know there's a lot of things that you could do with it. It's a fun twist on a polenta, right? It's like a little Latin flavored. It would go great with like chipotle marinated tofu, a salsa verde, some other grilled veggies. You could do like a completely different kind of bowl that's like very Latin inspired using this as the base. So I am getting my pan hot. I'm going to add some olive oil as soon as it's hot. What else am I going to add? I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of roasted red peppers that I've chopped, a 1/4 cup of green onions that I have also chopped. This is garlic, which I minced in my Vitamix behind me. I do not like to buy pre-made, pre-minced garlic because I think it usually has preservatives in it. And so this way it was just olive oil and garlic, and I just did it in my Vitamix. Okay, so it's hot. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. How much olive oil? I'm sure you want to know. 1/3 of a cup. And I'm going to turn my fan on so my smoke alarm doesn't go off. All right, and I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of the fire roasted peppers, a 1/4 cup of green onions, a 1/4 cup of minced garlic. Let me make sure that goes in right now. Yeah, we're going to add in everything except the cornmeal. So we're going to give those things a nice little stir here. Kind of saute that up in the olive oil. Okay, now the thing about garlic is it burns really quickly. So I'm sauteing it in here, and I can smell that garlic starting to get like nutty, and I do not want it to burn. So I'm going to go ahead and add the water, 4 cups of water. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to let that come to a boil. I just thought of something next level, you guys. If you wanted to get super, super gourmet, you could even take your blackened corn that I was just showing you, cut the kernels off, and actually throw it in to the funche, and it would be like so nice. But anyways, for today's purposes, we're just going to keep it funche or corn. I didn't put corn on your grocery shopping list because I didn't really know that I was going to talk about it today, but I saw it, I loved it, and I wanted to give options. So anyways, I like giving a lot of options because then you can really mix and match to make these bowls your own. Like there's no perfect one way to do any of these things. It's all really based on like what you like, what your family likes, how to get more veggies in your meals in a way that you and your family or your loved ones really love, right? Okay, so we're gonna bring that to a boil. And I'm just gonna show you this corn really quick because I wanted to show you a trick also if you're gonna go the corn route. A lot of people cut corn kernels like this and then the corn goes everywhere. So a little chef secret is to cut it off on its side, and then that really helps the corn to not go everywhere. So that's a little pro tip for you guys. So if you're super confused of why you don't have corn from the grocery store, I'll just repeat it. This is just an option because I wanted to make a simple option and a gourmet option for you. So that's that. All right. So waiting for this to boil, and it is starting to boil, I'm going to add in 2 cups of cornmeal. Where'd my cornmeal go? Okay, 2 cups. Make sure your cup is nice and dry because if it has water in it, then the cornmeal will stick to it. Okay, so we're gonna add in 2 cups. And we're also gonna add in some chopped cilantro that I already did. About 1/8 of a cup or more if you love cilantro, or none if you don't love cilantro, because some people really don't like cilantro. All right, so you just keep whisking it. I'm gonna bring my computer over to show you guys. Okay. So you boil it and you just wanna get all those clumps out. So if you've made polenta before, you're gonna really recognize this procedure here. So I turned it down to low, and I'm afraid I'm gonna make you guys car sick if I keep, if I keep jiggling my computer. So I'm gonna put you back.
And
but you just wanna make sure.
Julie,
while I whisk what?
Fernanda asked if you could share the names of farms in Homestead where she can buy produce.
Yes. Okay, so some of my favorite farms are Tina's Pride. Tina's Pride, you could definitely get all of this food that I'm cooking today. The greens, the corn, the beets, the zucchini, all of that. Paradise Farms is really lovely as well. I don't know what they're growing right at the moment, but probably greens and fruit. I'm adding a little salt right now. Urban Oasis is a great one, and they have a lot of influence on local farmers markets. So if you look up for Urban Oasis farmers markets, you can find them as a great resource here. French Farms is a great one. Little River Cooperative is a great one. Okay, so see this, you guys? It's like a porridge, like a polenta. And it's pretty much fully cooked and it smells so good. Wow. Okay, so at this point, if you wanted to, which I'm not going to because we don't have 12 hours, you could basically scoop this out and lay it flat on here or like a glass Pyrex or something and chill it and then cut it and take those little squares and saute them kind of like tofu. And that it's gonna be so delicious. And so that's what we do at the Doral Yard. So today we're just going to use the funche, just like this, which is maybe more of a traditional style. So I'm going to just keep this right over here, turn off the stove, check my quinoa. So good. Quinoa is done. Okay, so when the water has all evaporated from the quinoa, you can add a little bit of salt and give it a little stir. I want it to be nice and fluffy. And then I'm just gonna put the top back on and let it kind of chill and soak up the rest of any water that might be there. So at this point, everything is off, right? So we're just going to make the last few things.
And then we have one quick question.
Yes.
Rosa was wondering, would you add 2 cups of fresh corn to supplement?
I think 1 or 2, 1 or 2 ears of corn. You like at this point when it's done right now, I could add this corn from 1 or 2 ears of corn, of grilled corn, and it would be so good. Should I do it, Maddie? Should I do it right now?
Yeah.
Should we go for it?
Do it.
We're gonna go for it. All right. We're just gonna do it. All right. Okay, I'm gonna mix that in like that. And I'm just gonna show you guys. Oh, that's gonna be so good.
So
all right, so
good.
so it's like a corn polenta, but it's gonna have that like yummy, smoky, grilled kind of flavor. Okay. Next is the grilled zucchini. So zucchinis, you can get like little baby zucchinis and you don't even need to cut them if you get those like really special little farm baby zucchinis, but these are pretty traditional size. And we're just going to cut them in diagonals to pieces like that. And so the reason I cut them into diagonals is that when I'm grilling them, they don't fall through the cracks quite as easily. So they can sit on the grates a little better. So what I'll do is I will drizzle with olive oil and sprinkle with salt and throw those on the grill. And I might like to throw a few other things on the grill, which is why I thought about the corn too, but other veggies like eggplant or mushrooms, okra, green beans, even a lot of things can go on the grill. One of my favorite things is radishes. So if you have like other veggies to grill, you can throw them all on the grill. But basically what you're gonna do is olive oil, a little salt, and then you're gonna throw these on the grill and you just leave them there for a couple of minutes on a very hot grill, like a 500-degree grill, and till they get the marks on each side. You can flip them a couple times. And what you're going to come out with is this. So that is basically after you've grilled it, what they're going to look like. So that was kind of like a little cooking show magic I just did right there, like they do on TV, you know? All right.
And
so,
we have one question. Nas was wondering if you recommend a grill basket.
You know, for small things I do. I like a grill basket for like definitely if I'm going to do some radishes or some green beans or cut things a little smaller, button mushrooms, those things are going to fall right through the grates. But bigger things like zucchinis, like if you cut them this way, you won't need a grill grate. You know, I'm a lot about simplicity, and I have to clean the grill grate after I use the grill grate. And so if I can make things big enough that I don't need to use it, I will. So that's the rule of thumb there. Okay, so I'm also big on like bite-sized things, especially if you're putting it all in a bowl to go together. So I personally would not like to see this big of something in my bowl. I like to cut them down a little bit so that you can kind of get a lot of things in one bite instead of just one thing in one bite. So I pile them up long ways and then cut them into bite-sized pieces. So that's my grilled zucchini here. And then this can also go great in like, you know, one thing I really like to do is make a lot of extra food. And so say tomorrow I have some grilled zucchini left and I have a little bit of quinoa left and I have some greens left and some sauce. I can just make a quick salad where I throw all that stuff together. It's really nice. So there's your zucchini. That was really easy, and part of that was because I pre-grilled the zucchini, but it's an easy step and you can do it. Okay, let's see guys, we're getting down to the end here. We're gonna do our beet and tomato salad, and then we're going to do our sauce, and then we're gonna build our bowl. Okay, so I did not get heirloom tomatoes. I told you guys to get heirloom tomatoes, and then I didn't make it to the farm this weekend. So I have good old fashioned vine ripened tomatoes. So these will work too if you did not get heirlooms. Some people prefer to take the seeds out. Some people like to keep them in. Today we're just going to keep them in, but if you have somebody that's sensitive in your house to tomato seeds, you can take them out. Again, that goes back to like the food waste thing. I try to not waste food at all if I don't have to. So we're going to use the tomato seeds. Oh no. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Why would somebody be ringing my doorbell right now? Don't say no. Okay. Oh my gosh. You guys, time out.
Who could it be?
Who could it be, Maddie? Oh my goodness.
Also, Luis.
This is what
Luis sent a message
happened.
about a grill, but you just sent it to panelists. If you want to send that message to panelists and attendees, Luis.
Okay. So yeah, let me know when the question comes up, Maddie. Sorry about that. This is real life, everybody. This is not in a studio. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut a mix of heirloom cherry tomatoes, and I cut them through the stem. That's also a pro tip. Cut them like this, always through the stem. Okay, so we're gonna cut up our heirlooms, and I'm just cutting them in half. You could also cut them in quarters, but I want them to be roughly the same size as the chunks I cut up of the big tomatoes. So we're just gonna cut these into halves. And then if you want really good tomatoes, and you live in Miami, I definitely recommend Tino's Pride. They have the best. They're known for their tomatoes. All right, so just gonna cut in some big chunks here. Does not have to be like chefy or perfect, just some nice size chunks like that. And you could just do only big tomatoes. You could do only just small tomatoes, but I want to show you that this is like anything goes. This is just a great kind of chunky, rustic salad where you can put in a little of everything. And you know what else goes really good is that grilled corn. If you didn't want to put it in with the cornmeal and you wanted to put it in here, that would also be a great addition as well. So here's the tomatoes. I recommended to you guys to get cooked beets. This brand, Love Beets. I love them. If I have time to boil beets, I will, but this is just like a very quick solution. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the bag. And I like to get the organic ones. The thing about foods that grow in the earth, if you think about the way that foods grow, you know, beets, they grow in the soil, like the beet part grows under the dirt. So if it's not organic, it's probably, you know, like been soaking in all the things from the soil as it grew. So especially root vegetables that grow under the soil, I would say try to get organic as much as possible. So these are also going to be cut into pretty nice big chunks. Again, this isn't a restaurant, just cooking for home, and it does not have to be perfect. So don't be too hard on yourself. It's all good. The other thing about these Love Beets is it doesn't make your hands completely red the way like fresh beets would do. So it is also nice for your cleanup process in your cutting board. By the way, you might notice I have a huge cutting board and a huge knife. I think that having the right size cutting board as big as you can possibly fit on your kitchen counter and a knife that's actually made for cutting vegetables, like not using a bread knife or a paring knife, it also makes your life as a home cook a lot more pleasant. And I think these two things are game changers in the kitchen. Okay, so I added tomatoes and beets. You can add more beets, you can add more tomatoes, you can omit the beets, however you want to do it. It's all good. I'm also going to add a little bit of white onion because I think that makes it really nice. To cut the white onion, I'm going to cut it right down the stem and take off the papery part on the end. And if you want to get really nice slices for this salad, like really nice thin slices, take the middle part out. So you just have this part and kind of smash it down a little bit. And then you just cut with the lines to make some really nice thin white onion. You could use red onion or yellow onion, but I think white just looks so pretty in here. So I'd say like a quarter of an onion is about right. I'm going to throw that in there too, kind of fan those out a little bit. So this is what your salad looks like. You can also add some fresh herbs if you want. I have some chopped cilantro from from the polenta recipe. I also have some chopped parsley here. I'm going to add that too. And then I'm just going to do some olive oil, salt, and any vinegar will work. You have balsamic, great. You have champagne, great. Apple cider, great. So these are a few that would work. This is a champagne citrus. I'm going to do some balsamic today for this one. I'm going to add some black pepper and I'm going to mix it up. So this is a really nice salad that you can use in these bowls or anytime. It's great for a barbecue. If you need to take a side dish, this is a really lovely dish to take for a barbecue, especially if you're vegan and you're not really sure what else is going to be served at the barbecue, just to make sure that you have something that you can eat. That's what happens to me a lot. I'll take a dish that I know that I'll eat, and then that's what I end up eating at the barbecue or the dinner party. Because at least I know that it's going to be something I can eat and that I'm going to like to eat. So this is a great option for that. Okay, I also got some basil. You could have put basil in there too. It's very open. I have these leftover green onions. Let's just put them in there too. I mean, really, like, we don't want to waste them. So that is the kind of beet tomato salad. I'm going to set that aside. Our timer is going off for these crispy chickpeas, so let's take those out of the oven. Right. Now, they're not super crispy yet, but they're definitely getting kind of black on the bottom, and I don't want them to burn. I think I'm going to take them out right now, and I think when they start to cool off a bit, they're gonna crisp up a little bit, but they smell really good. I definitely don't want them to burn. So even if they don't feel super crispy right when you take them out, just realize they still have quite a while as they cool down to crisp up. Let those cool down. And then the last thing that we have to make is our green sauce, famous green sauce. All right, the best thing about the green sauce is that it's just a bunch of herbs. And it's, if you've ever heard that saying, don't go to the pharmacy, go to the farm, that's what this sauce is about. It's all the best stuff in a blender, and it's like, it makes you feel so good, and it tastes so good. All right, I forgot to get capers, so I hope you guys got capers. That was on the list. You're going to start with 2 tablespoons of capers. I'm not adding capers, but you're going to at home. So you're going to add 2 tablespoons of capers, and then we're going to add a couple cloves of garlic. I actually should probably look at the recipe. I make this sauce so often, and I make it different every single time. So we're going to add, oh, this is a lot. All right. It says 5 cloves of garlic. That's really personal preference. I'm going to add 4 today. I've been a lot more sensitive to garlic lately. I don't know if it's getting old or what, but I'm gonna go a little lighter, but you guys could go heavier. So I don't know if that's what happens, but I feel like onions and garlic are like they hit me harder these days. Okay.
We have a question.
Just wait, Maddie. You just wait, girl.
We do have a question from Fernanda, who is wondering if an air fryer would work for the chickpeas.
I don't know. My hairdresser swears by her air fryer and cooks everything in it, but I don't have an air fryer, so I can't really attest to it. But I would love to hear from you if it does work. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's recipes for it. There's got to be recipes online for it. Okay, this part is also up to personal preference. This is a whole jalapeno. If you want it really spicy, I would cut it into a couple of chunks and throw the whole thing in. If you want the flavor of the jalapeno, but not the spice, take out the seeds. So
I'm a spice wimp. I would need to take out the seeds.
Yeah, and then maybe also, Maddie, just use one piece of it. Don't use both. So that part is also really up to personal preference. If I'm cooking this for my family, my daughter doesn't like spice, so I might just use a tiny piece of a jalapeno. You can always add more jalapeno. It's like salt, right? Like you can never take it out, but you can always add more. So you could even start with like that size piece for flavor. And then, you know, add as you go. But this sauce is all for me this time. So I'm going to add a lot of jalapeno, but I did take the seeds out. Okay, so here's the fun part. We just start adding a bunch of green herbs because that's what this sauce is about. Okay, so I'm going to take this entire bunch of parsley and cut it into some just like big pieces. I don't put the whole stalk in because the stem will get wound around the blender. So I cut it into pieces like that. So I'm going to throw that whole thing in. You could just throw in whatever you have. If you already used parsley for something else, you could throw in what you have. All right, I have this bunch of cilantro. I usually don't throw in like the very, very ends if they're a little bit brown. And then I'll just throw all of that in as well. And I got these out of the garden, so I'm going to use these, but if you have green onions at home, you could just throw in a bunch of those. Again, I'm just going to kind of cut them up a little bit to break them up. Okay, stuff it down. All right. I have this moringa. I'm going to throw some of those leaves in. I have my Cuban oregano. If you guys live in Miami, Cuban oregano grows like a weed here, and it is so nice to put in sauces and dressings and recipes. So I'm going to throw some of that in there. Okay. I'm not going to put in any of this Italian oregano, but if you grow that, you could always throw that in too. Okay. So you got garlic. Hopefully you have your capers, your jalapeno, your green onions, your herbs. We're going to give it, I like a little bit of cumin. Some people don't. I'm going to give it a nice hefty pinch of cumin. That's optional. I'm going to give it a little bit of ground pepper. One thing about pepper, you guys, is always fresh grind your own pepper. I always just use like, you know, things like this and refill them with pepper grinders or with peppercorns. The fresh is going to give your food a way better taste. And also when pepper is pre-ground, it actually releases an aflatoxin that turns into mold. Sorry to be Debbie Downer, but it like releases oils and then kind of gets moldy and stale. So if you've been doing pre-ground pepper in your kitchen, it's okay, but today's the day to go to fresh ground and your life in the kitchen will be forever changed. And you can thank me later. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and then we're going to add a little bit of liquid. So I'm going to use just like a basic olive oil, not my fancy olive oil, but it is extra virgin, which means it hasn't been heat treated. According to the recipe, it is a half cup. I don't know, that seems like a lot for this amount of herbs. So I'm going to add just enough so I can start seeing it pool down at the bottom. And then I'm going to use a little bit of apple cider vinegar, although again, you could use red wine vinegar, you could use rice vinegar. I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of that. And then we're just going to go ahead and blend that baby up. So here we go. Might be a little bit loud. All right, so it's kind of like a pesto almost, but it's like pourable. Like I could pour it into a jar, which is a great idea. So if you have a jar, you can just pour it, and then this can be a condiment for your food all week long. It lasts about 10 days. The vinegar helps it last. So then it will become your favorite sauce too. And when I make a big batch like this, I'll take a little jar over to my neighbors, and that's a really good way to make friends with your neighbors. So that's how much it made, is like a 1/2 of a jar full, and this will be more than enough to last you and your family and your neighbors 10 days. It's a lot. All right, do we have any questions before we go ahead and start building this bowl as I clean up my space a little bit?
I don't see any right now. Feel free to ask any questions.
One thing I should mention also, Maddie, while I'm cleaning up here is if you guys like these recipes and you want more, we have a cookbook. It's an ebook, so it's very inexpensive. It's only $9.99. We sell it on Amazon, but it's even better if you get it off of our website on dellabowls.com. And it has over 60 recipes, and it's all with this theme of like building simple mix and match ingredients for bowls. So that is a great place to find more recipes like this. And then also, if you're interested to know more about the equipment that I'm using, because I obviously am very particular about my utensils and my knife and my blender and all the things I have here, we have an Amazon page where you can go on, and everything is already pre-selected for you. So you already know it's like it's pre-vetted. So it's not sponsored. It's just my favorite things in the kitchen. And you can just click and shop there to make it really easy for you guys.
Awesome. And then Luis was wondering if you can use your special sauce as dressing for a salad.
That's a good question. So it might be a little thick to use for a salad, but if you add, if you thinned it out a little bit, it would be. Maybe. I think it would be good. It's just it's kind of thick for a dressing, and it's strong. It's really got some kick to it. So maybe sparingly with a little vinaigrette to like mix it up. It's really good on grilled carrots, grilled sweet potatoes or roasted sweet potatoes, roasted cauliflower. If you do eat meat, which I know this is a vegan class, and I'm vegetarian, but I do serve it at parties where they're doing barbecue. And so any kind of like fish, chicken, meat, you will be, everyone will love you. Goes great on tacos. It's like, you'll find it goes on everything. It's really, really good. But most grilled vegetables or roasted vegetables, it's like a done deal, perfect match.
Yum. Also, Nas put in, he accidentally sent this to panelists, but he said he bought an air fryer, toaster oven, and oven combo at Costco. If anyone wants to check that out.
Ooh, yeah. I know. I would like to try that out. I think that would be. I think that'll be the next thing that I add to my repertoire here. Okay, so guys, look at how delicious all of this is. Are you ready to build your bowl?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to start with that base, right? That, here, I'm going to put my bowl forward here. All right, we're going to start with that free trade organic quinoa. And everything just needs like a little scoop. It doesn't need to be a lot of food because you're mixing a lot of things together. And we go in a color wheel formation. So we don't layer it like, you know, one thing and then another thing. We want to be able to see all those beautiful colors. So I'm going to start with the quinoa, and then we're going to do some of this funche next to it. Okay, and then we're going to do some of this grilled zucchini. So what we made today, well, the funche is actually quite a bit. So that you could use for multiple meals, but the rest of it I think is roughly about either 2 really big bowls or 4 kind of average size bowls with a little extra of the salsa and the funche. All right, we're gonna use those greens we talked about at the beginning, which are getting a little wilty from sitting out in a hot kitchen, but that's gonna give it a little kind of like freshness and crunchiness. And then we're gonna do this delicious, beautiful tomato beet salad there. Okay. Oh my gosh, you guys, can you even see? Look at that. Isn't that so beautiful? Okay, then we're gonna take this green salsa, green sauce, green herb sauce. Just like really be generous with that. And then finish it off with these crispy chickpeas. So that's how you build a della bowl, just like in general. It's always that kind of color wheel, mix and match colors, fresh things, cooked things, raw things, always the sauce. And then the crunchy boost on top. So that right there is your Earth Day bowl. It's locally inspired, seasonally inspired, organic, fair trade, came from the garden. And yeah, so bon appetit, everybody.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
And you guys, we did that in like 40 minutes.